Many Sikhs, my family included, like to keep a khanda in their car, like others keep a cross or any other religious artifact in theirs. Now, my family isn't the strictest family religiously, but my parents have always felt that we should have a khanda in every car that we've owned. So when we bought a new family car, it was quickly adorned with a silver khanda. A couple of days later, my dad decided to take this car out to a religious gathering, made a pit stop on the way, and returned to a car with its passenger seat window smashed and a rock on the seat. Now, there were no valuables in this car, so we can only assume that the reason for this vandalism was the khanda. That and the fact that it had been thrown to the ground. We may have gotten this window fixed, but nothing could repair our broken trust in the world. So we quickly removed khandas from every car that we owned and didn't bring them back until at least a year later. The fact that we felt that we couldn't freely express our religion due to a fear of safety was dreadful. Good afternoon. My name is Gurleen Kaur.
And I'm Supreet Thiara.
Today we'll be sharing our stories on how we gave into cultural assimilation and how we were eventually able to find our way out.
On September 11th, 2001, terrorists crashed their planes into the Twin Towers, leading to the deaths and injuries of thousands. During the aftermath, many hate crimes against the Sikh and Muslim community took place, and the era of being called a terrorist or being told to go back to your own country had begun. Now, it has been almost 17 years since this attack, and yet the Sikh community still remains a target to hate crimes and violence.
Now, many Sikhs have experienced the immediate and the gradual effects of this attack. We constantly feel unsafe and are scared of being victim to a hate crime. Quite often, we experience random security checks at the airport due to the turbans we wear on our heads.
Sikhs are extremely familiar with racial profiling. Because many Sikh men wear their turbans, they're constantly showing a physical sign of their religion, what they stand for, and what makes them unique. Unfortunately, it has been used to profile many as terrorists, and so many Sikh men are under the risk of becoming a victim to a hate crime or even racial profiling. It has come to the point where that fear of becoming a victim has led many Sikh men to alter their appearance in order to blend in.
Now, as Sikh Americans, we feel lost amidst the violence and the hate racism towards our community. So every single time a member of our community is victim to a hate crime or any type of violence, we all experience that pain.
Immediately following the events of 9/11, our community had to take extra precaution in their everyday tasks, whether it was something as simple as going grocery shopping to just working their jobs. My grandfather was in this position. He was living in a community where there were not very many Sikhs at the time, and he was afraid of what could potentially happen to him if he continued to stand behind the front desk of his hotel working. It is sad to say that this was a very common experience for many Sikhs at the time, but what's even more disheartening is the fact that it has still exists, and it has not stopped.
Now, from 5th to 8th grade, I was the only Indian girl in my class, so I felt isolated from my culture. So when my dad's friend decided to start a Bhangra or a folk dance team, I excitedly joined. I quickly learned all of the dances, my dad even saying it was in my blood, and soon became the captain of said team, while still keeping this divide between culture and school. So when I came to Moreau and I found out that there was an Indian club, I thought I would finally be able to connect my school life with my culture. Well, I thought wrong. The club focused on Bollywood dance, and I, having done Bhangra my entire life, didn't feel a personal connection to it. So, not wanting to be a caricature of myself and entertain the notion for even 1 second that all Indians are the same, I didn't join. And I continued to spend my freshman and my sophomore years keeping this divide between school and culture.
Growing up, my family started to get involved in a local Punjabi cultural association, and they held this annual event called Vaisakhi, which is a festival that is celebrated commonly in Punjab, India. And so I was quickly enrolled into a Bhangra team that would perform at this event. I enjoyed every single minute of it. I wasn't the greatest dancer at first, but I enjoyed being able to interact with people who shared the same culture as I did. And so I continued to be a part of this event through high school, and that was when I began to notice that there was a lack of awareness of the various different Indian cultures at Moreau, and I wanted to change that. When Gurleen and I started the Bhangra team, our intent wasn't just to become another dance team, but rather a catalyst for other minority cultures to come out and get the representation that they may not have been getting. Dance just happens to be a universal way to celebrate and spread culture.
Now, we can both agree that we've lost a part of our identity, our culture, even our faith to the hatred in the world. It has sadly just become easier to hide our true identities than to explain each and every single time that not everyone who comes from India has the same culture, faith, or even identity.
But we have slowly been finding that part of ourselves again. At Moreau, we feel safe to practice our religion, and we feel appreciated and accepted when we are able to share our culture with our Mariner family. The Bhangra team was an initiative that allowed us to take a step further on our individual journeys to find ourselves as Sikh Americans, while also simultaneously working alongside a common goal, erasing hate.
Now, we wanted to hold on to our traditions and didn't want to give in to assimilation. So the PunkRock Club allows us to define these boundaries of our authenticity while simultaneously giving back to our community. Starting this club is more than just being represented. It gives each and every one of you here today a chance to take matters into your own hands and insert a reflection of yourselves into the community around you, just as we've done. We've realized that when we took action to be authentic to ourselves, we were automatically able to impact our environment.
We know how easy it is to lose oneself, whether it be your culture or your religion. So we ask you to embrace what makes you unique. Because once you begin to love and understand where you come from, only then will you have the mindset to do the same with others. So I have 2 easy steps for you guys here today. Step 1 is to learn about yourself. Where do you come from? What is your culture, your background? And once you've nailed that, you can move on to step 2. And that is to notice who you surround yourself with. Where do they come from? What is their background like? How has that shaped them to be the person that they are today? Because when we do these steps, we can become more mindful of those around us and eventually become more accepting of each other as a community and create a society where we can all live in peace. Taking initiative is necessary in order to bring change, because if you don't take action, who else will? When my grandfather was one of the few Sikh men in his community during the aftermath of 9/11, he knew how important it was for him to raise awareness about Sikhism in his community. Through many years, he worked towards this, whether it was simply just creating relationships with those in his community or representing Sikhism at the annual Nevada Day Parade. In doing so, he not only raised the awareness that he wanted to initially, but he was also able to be loved, appreciated, and recognized in his community, and eventually was able to serve on the city council as a planning commissioner. Now, his story is just another example of how change can happen. It doesn't happen overnight, but if you take that step 1, if you take that initiative, you're already a step ahead in the process.
Acceptance is the catalyst for change. It's important in every argument to understand every point of view in order to form a knowledgeable opinion. So using that same logic, it's important to acknowledge the fact that no culture is black and white. And acknowledging and accepting that fact is the step to starting those pivotal conversations about the issues our world faces today. We are more divided than ever, but simply taking a moment to accept that no one is better, only different, will spark that change for a better world. So we encourage all of you to go home and start working on step 1, which is to learn something new about your background, your identity, your faith, and to embrace this new fact about yourself, and then share that fact with your loved ones, with your family members, with peers at school, and acknowledge the fact that this fact is vital to you, and encourage everyone around you to do the same. Thank you.